see. Just making sure. Yep, we got it. I'm just going to live stream this because it'll be easier. I noticed every morning, every morning I've been posting articles onto social media, and I thought, why don't I just live stream them on YouTube? Because, instead of just posting them. And that'll, add traffic to my channel, give me something to do. And so here we go. We have this this Charlie Kirk thing, man. He really dominated the discourse there for a minute, didn't he? But I forget the control prompts. Is it this? I forget what the control prompts are. It's been so long since I've used this. Well, I don't remember. Anyway. So, yeah, this really dominated the discourse for a while, and I was not very quick to post anything about it because just lack of information. But boy, oh boy, the day after it happened, and I opened up my social media, you could tell, regardless of how the person talks to you or interacts or the things that they say or whatever. I mean, it was pretty obvious, like, who votes Republican, because every single one of them posted about this, and it was all pretty much the same thing. All of it. Like, depending on... just making sure... depending on when or where they got... where it was when Kash Patel had his tweets. Some of them were saying... condemning all trans people, some were condemning all LGBTQ people, and then, finally it's just the entirety of the left. I have not seen such a level of homogeny in thought I in my life. Like, it was all basically the same post. It was this happened to Charlie Kirk. How dare you? You should condemn it. You guys are all radical and crazy. Now, as the story progressed, because at first they thought it was a trans person, found out, no, it wasn't that. Then they thought maybe it was a gay person, then they figured out, no, it wasn't that. It's a straight, cis, white dude. That was the other thing. Oh, it's you know, like, racial crime. No, it wasn't that. Come to find out, it was the reason why he did it is because he felt Charlie Kirk wasn't far right enough. Okay, so let's just go through the damn article.
Several people fired after clampdown on speech over Charlie Kirk shooting. People attend a vigil for Charlie Kirk in Orem, Utah. Reactions on social media to the murder of far-right activist Charlie Kirk have cost multiple people their jobs as authorities in numerous states clamped down on critical commentary. Among those to have been fired, suspended, or censured in recent days for their opinions include teachers, firefighters, journalists, politicians, a Secret Service employee, and a worker for a prominent NFL team. The dismissals come as the administration of Donald Trump promises to take action against foreign nationals it deems to be praising, rationalizing, or making light of Kirk's killing, himself a fervent free speech advocate. Advertisement. Pete Hughes, the defense secretary, meanwhile, has ordered staff to find and identify military members, and any individual associated with the Pentagon, who have mocked or appeared to condone Charlie Kirk's murder, NBC News reported Friday. Related, Trump declines to call for unity after Charlie Kirk killing in stunning move. The outlet, citing 2 Defense Department officials, said several members of the military were relieved of their duties because of social media posts, and that dozens more, including civilian Pentagon employees, had been called out on X. Along with government efforts to clamp down, a number of conservative figures and groups are attempting to collate and expose examples of commentary.
We have to defend free speech by silencing your free speech. You are not allowed to have a position on this where, I don't know, maybe you don't care.
Seen as objectionable. Advertisement. Laurel Loomer, a Trump loyalist, posted to X, "Prepare to have your whole future professional aspirations ruined if you are sick enough to celebrate his death. I'm going to make you wish you never opened your mouth." Scott Chrysler, a far-right activist with 2.3 million followers on X, asked for tips about teachers celebrating Kirk's death, and he has shared posts and social media profiles of alleged wrongdoers, including details of their workplaces. Time reported.
See, this is the thing that gets me. You know, like, all these conservatives, they come out and they're, you need to condemn this. You can't condone it. It's bad. It's evil. Everyone, basically, like, trying to declare war with the left. Like, we just need to round all the leftists up, and then you find out that the person who did it isn't even a leftist. They did it because Charlie Kirk wasn't far right enough for him, and still, like, the left is getting the brunt of the force of this. And the thing is like, how I feel about this is complicated. It's more nuanced. It's not pro or con or anything. The thing is, out of all the right-wing, this is not the first time this has happened. The amount of times this has happened where a shooting has occurred and it's been blamed on some radical leftist, and it turns out that it ends up being actually somebody who's far right, extreme far right leaning. I've lost track at this point. But you had a far right extremist attack Nancy Pelosi's husband. I know this has probably been brought up to death. And you had a far-right extremist say they were non-binary, clear that they weren't. That was some kind of stunt they were trying to pull, and shot up a nightclub in Colorado, a gay nightclub in Colorado. And then you have that far-right extremist who literally killed a Democrat senator and their dog. And that's really wild to hear that somebody, like a publicly elected official, like, a senator, a congressman, or something, like, usually, normally in society in the past, we look at people in those kinds of positions as untouchable, that like if somebody does something to them, you're gonna have Secret Service like busting your door or something. The thing is that I have never seen or heard any right-wing person, commentator, or the like condemn and not condone those actions. And yet, even though it turns out the left is not even responsible for this, we are still getting the brunt, like the left is still getting the brunt force of this. And I'm not laughing. I don't think it's funny. The thing that you have to understand is, like, I don't really care because I don't know Charlie Kirk personally. You know, he's a stranger to me. I would say, you know, he's mildly famous now. With everything that's going on, because when this happened, there's been 2 school shootings where this thing about Charlie has taken precedent in the public discourse over 2 school shootings where children have died. And meanwhile, the Epstein thing is still going on with Trump shit all over it. Farmers are crying out for help. Like, farmers are in dire trouble. And because we're isolated, we can't get resources into the country. We could be looking at food outages. We could be looking at food shortages. Our economy is tanking. Our job market is tanking. You know, basically, we're like almost on the brink of like governmental and societal collapse. And somehow this one person is so important that they are dominating the public discourse and dialogue over everything else that's going on. Now, if you are a like a Charlie Kirk fan, if you idolize this person, I'm not really big into idolization. I'm not really big into like fandom. It makes sense that this incident would dominate your dialogue if you're like if they were your idol, if he was your idol. If you're a family member, that makes sense that it would dominate your dialogue. If you're a family member, you know, you're close, you care about them and love them and such like that. But for a lot of people, he's a stranger. It's like, you know, the guy down the street. You know, he was attacked and he died. You know, it's like, would I expect people to? I mean, there's a respect in the sense that all life is valued and meaningful as life itself. But to expect like some kind of weeping, some kind of grief, you know, you might be like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but grief, like, no, this person I don't even know down the street from you. No, I don't think anyone expects that. I think that's crazy. So, like, I don't know Charlie Kirk. I don't know him. I know of his work. I've heard his arguments. I've heard the things he said. I've watched his debates. So I don't know him. So on that premise, I don't really care about this because I don't know him personally. I'm not a family member of his. I'm not a friend of his. I've never sat down and talked with him. I don't know him. 2, Charlie Kirk has never said or done anything as a social media public figure for me to like him. So therefore I don't. And 3, Charlie Kirk has actually said and supported ideas and things to give me reason not to like him. So therefore I don't. And that doesn't change in death either. Just because he died doesn't mean I suddenly am now like, oh, well, his very, very, very negative and volatile views towards LGBTQ people is now suddenly acceptable. No, that doesn't change. Sorry. No. Do I think he deserved to have this happen? Of course not. If you've been watching my channel for any duration of time, if you a lot of people think they know me, they don't. And like honestly, but a lot of people think they know me. Let me make this very, very clear. I've said this like a billion times, so I probably have to reiterate it like 5 billion more times because people seem to have very, very selective hearing. I don't support violence. The only time that I support violence is in self-defense. And that's it. That's the only time I support violence is in self-defense. I don't support violence. So yeah, that's just kind of where I am on this. So it was really interesting to see though all these people like it to me, the fact that all these all these right-wing people came forward and basically made the exact same post, almost word for word verbatim. The only difference was based on where Kash Patel was tweeting at the time, on who it was. The level of homogeny in that, it made me think, no wonder the right wing doesn't really understand the left and why they would come out and condemn the entirety of the left. And they thought that it was a leftist that did it, like we sit around and plot these things, or like we all share the same brain, like literally. Because it seems to be the way that the right wing function is very tribalistic and communal. And I know right-wingers that think that the left is very communal-based. And there is aspects of community building on the left, but the left is a very broad umbrella with a lot of different positions within it that are not just a little bit different, vastly different. You could put me in a room with Dean Withers, and there's probably a lot we would agree on. There's a lot we wouldn't agree on. But I don't think Dean Withers would even want to hang out with me. Because the lifestyle that I lead would be very, very much against a lot of what anything that he would want to have anything to do with. Like I'm all about YOLO, live for today, live fast, die young, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And not everyone's into that. Not even amongst other anarchists. I mean, you could put me in a room with another anarchist and we would agree on many things, most things, and still disagree on a great many others. I don't see this level of homogeny on the left. I don't see that. That's why you see all these leftists that have very, very nuanced positions towards this. They're very nuanced. Very, very nuanced. That's why it's like, no, I don't. He shouldn't have been shot. Absolutely not. But I'm not sad. But, I'm not condoning it. I'm not doing that. The thought process there is a lot more complicated than just either yay or nay. It's not either yay or nay. It's more complicated and as human beings we are complex and how we feel one moment that could even change from the next. but it did make me think, like, well, no wonder the right wing doesn't understand the left, because they seem to all think in homogeny. And the left doesn't, believe it or not. We don't do that. But I mean, what it showed me is that the right wing is basically like a bunch of Swifties, only MAGA. Like, it's almost like you guys have lost your sense of individuality, and the ability to think for yourself and be your own person. It was very wild to see that, just how carbon copy it was. It was wild, the homogeny involved. Wild. And now, I mean, literally, Charlie Kirk, he had positions that gave certain groups of people legitimate reason to really not like him. And now we're being asked to like him regardless. And the right wing has not only never apologized nor condemned the actions of far-right extremists who have, which there's a lot more right-wing extremist shootings and criminality in that realm, where people have died, people have gotten hurt, people have gone to the hospital, tons of them. It is actually the biggest cause of crime in this country right now. It was during Trump's first term, and it is so in Trump's second term. He's a very divisive person. It was like, oh no, I can't. This sucks that this happened under Trump, because in a healthy society, it doesn't matter what a person's political ideology is. If you do this to somebody, if you shoot somebody, it's supposed to be hold an individual accountable for their individual actions. But do you know how, like, I sifted through video after video after video after video after post after post after post after post after post of people saying they wanted to attack the entire left. They wanted war. They wanted, there was a woman that was shouting, saying every leftist out there is this horrible, heartless, demonic, crazy, extreme, etc., etc. And the vast majority of leftists have said, have condemned the action. Even before the suspect was apprehended, they were saying, no, this shouldn't have happened. No, it's not good. No, I don't endorse violence. Like, every leftist, a lot of leftists were doing that. You do have those fringe leftists that were going out and posting, like, you know, I know about them. I don't live under a rock. Believe me, like, I know, I'm knowing the internet, because it's mostly, like, become like the biggest gateway of socializing for me, and I've been disabled and locked in this apartment all the time. I know they exist, but the vast majority, I can't give a number, because, like, you people get nitpicky about things. Like, people get nitpicky. Like, if I say, like, 98%, like, people will be like, no, it's more like, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't know what percentage of the fucking left. Like, nobody's going out there and taking fucking polls on this, okay? So, I don't know. But out of the left community that I operate within, I think 99% condemned this. They did not condone. They do not condone violence. They do not condone the person who did this to Charlie Kirk and his family, and even shared condolences to his family. And you had people like me who were like, well, it makes sense that, like, you know, somebody who was a fan of his, somebody who idolized him, of course, is going to dominate their their dialogue. Of course, is going to do the same for the family. Like, yeah, that's very tragic for the family. And I mean, like if I died, I've got conservatives in my family, and they would show up to my funeral. My grandparents are conservative Christian Republicans, and my grandparents are very, very different, though. They don't act like this. My grandparents, they do not put politics before family. They put family before politics. Family is more important than your political position. Yeah, blood is thicker than water. That's how my grandparents are. So that makes sense. I totally... If you don't understand that his family is grieving and mourning over this, then you're not human. Like, obviously. But for a lot of people out there, if you are LGBTQIA+, if you're a person of color, if you're a woman, he held a lot of positions and he said things that they're not positions a person would hold that these groups of people would like. I mean, he's given people a lot of reason not to like him. So a lot of the I don't care comes from that. And there's also a lot of leftists that are like, I don't want to really apologize because no one on the right has ever, again, no one on the right has apologized for the extreme right-wing people who have done literal damage, like murdered people, done mass shootings. You've had far-right extremists do a mass shooting at multiple schools, grocery store, the nightclub, synagogues, mosques, churches. There's been a lot. Not only has no one apologized for it, no one's even condemned it. In fact, you go to social media, the vast majority of right-wingers condone it. And even make fun of us. And then, so a few people on social media find out about this and they go, good. Now suddenly they've got a giant target on their back. And even though the person who did it, come to find out, was not even a leftist. They did it because they were a right-wing extremist and felt that Charlie Kirk wasn't far-right enough. So the left had nothing to do with this, and yet we still are getting the brunt of the force. You guys have the House, the Senate, the President, the executive branch, and judicial branch, the majority of local public offices. When is it going to be good enough for you? Why don't you guys condemn the right-wing extremists who have literally taken like massive amounts of lives? Why don't you condemn the people posting memes thinking it's funny to feed human beings to alligators? You're literally talking about people that think it's funny to do cruel and unusual punishment. I'm not seeing anyone condemning that, apologizing for that. In fact, the people I've seen on the right wing condone it. So this level of double standard this is why a lot of leftists have been turned off by it, is because like the moment it happened, and it was just assumed that it must be a leftist. Turns out it wasn't. But when it was assumed, why so many just didn't want to say anything at all is because it's like, after all the stuff that far-right extremists have done to Democrats and leftists, after what locking Democrats in a building because they wanted to rig a midterm election, after all the shit that's been done, no one's apologized to us. No one's condemned the actions of radical extremists on the right. In fact, they've condoned it. And then, before you've even apprehended a suspect and put the horse before the carriage and assume it must have been a leftist, you expect every leftist on the internet to come out and say, I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm sorry for the family. I'm sorry for the fans. Charlie Kirk was amazing, stunning, and brave and beautiful. And most of us don't feel that way. We did, like I said, 99% of the leftists in the circle that I run with, only one that I saw, condoned. Everyone else says, agrees with, is on the same position of violence that I am. Violence is wrong. You should never do violence unless it's in self-defense. Some even go further than that and just outright no violence. Pure peace. So that was afforded and given. And yet, we're going to go through social media accounts and attack people. What the fuck? If you want, and instead of an I don't really care because I don't know him, I don't really have a reason to like him, I actually have good reasons not to like him. If you want an apology from me, if you are a right-winger and you are watching this and you want an apology from me, then may I ask? Can you apologize and condemn the actions of the far-right people who shot up a gay nightclub, or the U-Haul full of white supremacists that went to a gay pride event to try to slaughter a ton of LGBTQ people? The people who have shot up churches, synagogues, mosques, shopping centers, schools, the right-wing radical extremists who attacked Nancy, and I don't even like Nancy Pelosi, but she didn't deserve that, and her husband didn't deserve to be beaten in the head with a hammer. And then the senator who was assassinated. If you apologize and condemn that, and condemn the memeing of allowing alligators to eat human beings, I will give you an apology. I think that's fair. This goes both ways. I'm tired of this. We shouldn't be doing this. Double standard thing. And our society is not healthy because every time these things happen, people are so quick to try to jump on social media and figure out what is their political ideology. And in reality, it shouldn't matter. You hold an individual accountable for their individual actions. Even if he was a leftist, he may have felt that way. That doesn't mean everyone on the left does. Hold individuals accountable for their individual actions. That's what I mean. This is very collectivist and tribalist. And the idea, the actions of one speak for an entire group of people is absolutely absurd. Yeah. And that's why I say, like, that's the one thing I learned from this is, wow, apparently the right wing, no wonder they don't understand the left, because they're basically Swifties. They're so mired in fandom. You know, I started thinking about it. The bruised hand tattoo, the diapers, same clothes, same flag, same sayings, same thoughts, same talking points, on it goes. You guys are like carbon copies of each other. I was like, wow, that is a lot of homogeny. A lot. We don't have that here on the left. Oh no. So I think that's fair.
In Florida, the state's Board of Education issued a proactive memorandum specifically warning school employees not to post any personal viewpoints that may undermine the trust of the students and families that they serve. 2 educators in Clay County were removed from their classrooms and placed under state investigation on Thursday, one an elementary school teacher who posted to her personal social media account an article about the shooting, and the words, "This may not be the obituary we were all hoping to wake up to, but it is a close second for me." Advertisement. The other, a high school counselor, alluded in a post to Kirk's position, expressed in 2023, that it was worth it to have some gun deaths every single year to protect the God-given right of gun ownership.
I've heard that a lot from a lot of people.
Trump ally Laura Loomer ridiculed for swinging from Charlie Kirk attacks to leading backlash against detractors. The Guardian.
But this is the other thing, is there should be shame in this. Like all those right wingers that went to, like, the social media was just littered with it. You leftists are evil, evil, evil monsters, horrible, soulless people, just crazy, destructive, and violent, and yada, 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 yada. And now, every single one of them looks like a fool. And this has happened before, where a shoot thing happened, and it turns out that the person wasn't a leftist, but everyone on the right wing said, "Oh, it's a leftist. The left is so radical and violent, and left, bad, left." And then come to find out the shooter was not left, and in fact, a far right extremist. And you won't even condone it when they do it when they do it to you guys, to your own selves. Like, you should all have egg on your face. Like, this looks ridiculous at this point. Go back and watch the videos and think about how ridiculous it looks now.
2. People are applauding AOC's viral comments after Charlie Kirk's death. BuzzFeed. 2.7K. Judge cuts off rambling opening statement from would-be Trump assassin who is representing himself. CNN. 523. G-Fiber is expanding in mission. Google Fiber. Ad. The counselor wrote, 37 years in public education, ready to take a bullet for my kids. No, I'm not shedding a tear. He chose to sacrifice himself for the rights to be protected. Karma's a bitch. The comments were egregious and hateful, Jennifer Bradley, a Republican state senator, said in a statement. Arguably the most prominent individual to lose employment was Matthew Dowd, a veteran political analyst fired by MSNBC for suggesting on air that Kirk's radical rhetoric may have contributed to the violence that killed him. Advertisement. Hateful thoughts lead to hateful words.
That is not a radical thing to suggest, that his radical suggesting that Kirk's radical rhetoric may have contributed to the violence that killed him. That's a perfectly reasonable suspicion to have. What the fuck is wrong with this fucking country? Like, I swear everyone's brain is turning to mush. I swear.
Which then lead to hateful actions, Dowd said, adding.
And that's the other thing. Like, They come on. Oh. We should treat LGBTQ people with it's basically like as the argument goes, like marriage is between a man and a woman. Oh, you shouldn't have media presence. It's affecting the children. Oh, so you want us to go back in the closet, strip away all of our civil rights, and basically have us be dehumanized, depeopled, and no, I don't want that. But see, that's the thing. It's like everything that's being described is 100% like not just homophobia, but basically like the mass oppression and slaughter of LGBTQIA plus people. And it said, oh, this is free speech. But somebody on MSNBC suggesting maybe is it possible Kirk's radical rhetoric may have contributed to the violence that killed him? Whoa, that's extreme. But it's okay to advocate for people being fed to alligators. What the fuck?
With these sort of awful thoughts you have, and then saying these awful words, and then not expect awful actions to take place. The network and Dowd issued separate apologies. But in a Substack article published Friday, Dowd said he was the victim of a right-wing media mob, and that his words had been misconstrued because he spoke before knowing Kirk was the target or had been fired upon.
Yeah, free
Most
speech,
of those who have
my
been fired
ass.
or suspended, however, are people in regular jobs whose comments displeased their employers or were otherwise exposed. They include a Secret Service agent who said Kirk spewed hate and racism on his show, and you can't circumvent karma. The Carolina Panthers, an American football franchise, fired a communications coordinator who asked on Instagram, "Why are y'all sad? Your man said it was worth it," another reference to Kirk's previous comments on the Constitution's Second Amendment, guaranteeing Americans the right to bear arms. Advertisement. A reporter covering pro basketball's Phoenix Suns lost his job for posting comments including, "Truly don't care if you think it's insensitive or poor timing to decline to respect an evil man who died." A New Orleans firefighter was reportedly thrust under investigation by her employer after posting, then deleting, a social media comment that called the bullet that struck Kirk a gift from God. The Hill gave numerous other examples of workers, including nurses, university employees, and others, fired or disciplined for their comments. A teacher in Oregon, it said, lost their job for saying Kirk's death had really brightened up my day.
And see, when some right-wing extremist goes on a shooting spree and kills a lot of people, everyone who's angry about it is made fun of. People aren't fired, censored, and then they say, "Oh, we're being censored." It doesn't actually, like, that. This is another part. Like, TJ Kirk ended up covering this, and
everybody,
I think this is interesting.
My name is...
I haven't watched all of this. I only watched part of it and thought, well, maybe I should include it as part of this because it's part of the daily news ingest. Also, I'm not looking at the chat, so if you guys are in the chat, I'm not seeing it.
What was it again? TJ Kirk?
Here, we're gonna do this.
AKA the Amazing Atheist, AKA Frey the Chaos Wizard, AKA the Traveler of Realms, AKA. So I was scrolling through my Instagram Reels feed the other night, last night in fact.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, my Instagram Reels consist entirely of two things. Stand-up comedians making observations about the world in which we all live, and gargantuan, some would even say grotesquely large, jiggly asses. And that's exactly how I like my feed. That's exactly how I prefer my feed, and that's exactly what I was expecting from my feed But of course, due to recent events, that is not what I got. What I got instead was Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like I didn't. Just the very next day, I open up Facebook, and it's just like, you should be ashamed. Leftists are evil. Trans people need to be taken care of and taken out of society. How do you do that? What's the precursor that leads up to that? Yeah, exactly. And being LGBT, mental illness, and the left. This is war, left. We're coming after you. We're coming after you, leftists. Well, it turns out he wasn't a leftist.
And I have to say that this Charlie Kirk stuff has officially, for me, jumped the shark in terms of its entertainment value. I know that it's a big event. I know that it is the topic of discussion on the tip of everyone's tongue, but I have grown weary. So cease and desist, thank you. Well, no, of course you will not do that. So let's probe a little deeper, because I feel like...
And I agree with him on that, too. I mean, that's how I feel. Is like, it sucks because it's dominating the discourse. And that makes sense. If you idolize him, if you're a fan of his, that makes sense. Because when people idolize and they're fans of someone, someone's a hero to you, and something happens to them, it's pretty normal to feel like, even though they weren't close in your life, but to feel that way. Or if it's his family. But you have people on there that were going on about it, like right-wingers that were saying all the same basic shit. Like Swifties. Like, I'm telling you, it's like Swifties, only MAGA. Many of which had never even, like, listened to the things that he'd said. They don't even know he's, like, pro-theocracy. But we're talking about that, like, it's dominating the entire discourse of people who are not fans, people who do not idolize him, people who are like, hey, I really want to talk about the farmers' issue. You know, farmers are hurting. They're losing their crops. They're going bankrupt. They're having to burn their crops. We don't have the customers that are buying the stuff from overseas. We're not able to provide for the people that we have here. Danger coming, or, you know, stuff like that. That's an important subject. The fact that there's all these hospitals shutting down across America. One of the first things that are going is maternity wards. We could be talking about that, but no, we have to talk about Charlie Kirk.
I've heard all of the takes. I've heard the sympathetic takes. I've heard the jubilant takes. I've heard the I never agreed with Charlie Kirk, but can't we all just get along takes. I've heard them all. And frankly...
And I would like to be clear, I do not typically agree with TJ Kirk these days. I don't. Ever since he did this Into the Frey stuff, I'm like, bleh. But I thought I'd hear him out on this one.
They have grown tiresome, wearisome, and I no longer care. But I suppose that there is a little bit more meat on the bone if we dig just a little bit deeper into things.
Yeah, the meat on the bone is views.
This is what I intend to do with this video. So let's talk about a content creator, a youthful content creator, by the name of Dean Withers. I don't know how old he is. He looks 12, but I assume he's older than that. And he makes content that, as far as I can tell from my very limited exposure, is of a sort of progressive Democrat variety. He is in that debate bro sphere. I have seen some of his clips come up here and there, and typically it's debate bro stuff. You know, he'll be on the phone with some caller. The caller will say something. He will react as though what the caller has just said is the most insane and insipid thing he's ever heard. He'll be extremely uncharitable, and the moment the caller says something that he can pounce on, he does. He's basically a little gotcha miner, right? He's looking for gotchas. And he's doing it on the side of the progressive Democrats, I believe. I mean, he may be a leftist. I don't think he is, but I could be wrong. I don't have much exposure to him. It's really not important for what we're going to discuss in this video. So he, in his reaction to Charlie Kirk, did something that I suppose broke with the orthodoxy of the left at this moment, which is that he mourned. He had tears streaming down his face for Charlie Kirk. And I don't know if you...
But see, that's the thing. I don't know that there is much of the orthodoxy on the left. I mean, you have a lot of leftists that were doing the same thing. You have... I mean, it's all over the place. Like, the reaction to it was a vast spectrum. It wasn't on or off. It was all this. It was many shades of gray. But I know what TJ Kirk means. And this is an issue with social media in general. And TJ Kirk has a video about it, but I want to make an actual video about that, as well as what is it? The genetically modified skeptic? Is that who it is? I remember. And the philosopher from Wisecrack. TJ Kirk has a video, and the other two that I mentioned, where they got their finger on the pulse of something I want to make a video about. And it is an issue on both sides. Like, I can give you an example of one just of what problem is going on. You can be a libertarian and absolutely be for LGBTQIA plus rights. But it seems like in today's modern age, somebody through something has come to define these political positions for people. And it's turning into putting a horse before the carriage type situation. Now, like, Ben Shapiro says that he's a libertarian and he does not support LGBTQ rights. But the thing is the reason why Ben Shapiro doesn't support LGBTQ rights has to do with religious reasons. I mean, he's religious. That's a religious no-no. It has nothing to do with him being libertarian. And that's what I mean. You can be libertarian and you can go all the way to the left as a libertarian on social issues. That's the way it used to be. Libertarians back in the day, on social issues were sitting over with the anarchists. Do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting other people. I don't give a fuck. But where we would disagree, economics, because then they make a hard right into free market, vote with your dollar, deregulation, privatization, yada, yada, yada. Where the anarchists would be more into, publicize, make public. Not anymore. It seems like, nope, if you're a libertarian, you have to be so radically far right that LGBTQIA plus people are not okay, that women's rights equality, suffragette movement and all that is not okay. You basically need to be like a fundamentalist Christian, even if you're an atheist, on the libertarian side these days. Like, why? Who made that up? And I feel that's very problematic, is that the horse is being put before the carriage.
I took in the general vibe on the...
And that's happening on both sides, by the way. That's not just... I just use libertarians as an example. That's happening on the left, too. Left and right.
Left at that time, but there weren't a lot of tears. Let's just say that. So, a great many people saw this and said, heretic. How dare you mourn for Charlie Kirk? You're a terrible, terrible little person. You are not a good ally to us. You mourn for the enemy. You weep for him who would destroy us. How dare you, young sir? That is the vibe. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So
and the other thing, too, that I think we learned from all this is that the ending of DEI, all the, this let's put people in positions based on loyalty to Trump. We didn't learn. It just got reevaluated, anyone with a brain reaffirmed, is Kash Patel does not know how to do his job. He's not an expert. He's not trained for the position that he's in. Kash Patel is not even the one who caught the person. It was the father, because he confessed to his father that he did it. Who worked in law enforcement and was part of the military for a while. So, like, with all the surveillance technology that we have, it's wild to think. I think instead of having loyalists in these positions, if we didn't have Kash Patel, if we didn't have a loyalist in the position, we had people who train, who know about intelligence, investigation, law enforcement. That person would have been found like that. Putting people in just because they're loyal to you is not based on merit. It's based on loyalism. So it just kind of reaffirmed what pretty much anyone with a brain already would have known, is that you put all these loyalists in charge of, like, the FBI, the CIA, the military, and they have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
So I suppose, on a superficial, sort of surface level, you could say that, it doesn't make sense to get mad at some kid for having empathy for a fellow human being. That's the surface level read I think a lot of people would have, especially people who are not entrenched in politics, right? People who are more of the normie persuasion would probably be like, that's ridiculous. How dare you mock this kid for crying over a guy that died,
I mean, I don't know that everyone feels that way. I think a lot of people get it but don't at the same time.
And I see that perspective, I suppose. But I think the people who are on his case have a little bit of a point, Because a lot of the people on his case are, black people who Charlie Kirk called...
As I said, this is so very nuanced. This is not on, off, black, white kind of situation.
You don't really want that figure who said those things about you to be lionized.
Exactly.
Charlie Kirk also said that, trans people should be dealt with the way they were back in the 50s. I don't know how Charlie Kirk thinks trans people were dealt with back in the 50s, but...
Yeah, see, somebody says something like that, and this is what I mean. It's like when people are like, we need to do something about people who are going around, like, trying to brainwash and propagandize people into thinking that we need to, let's just say that this is accurate, deal with trans people like they did in the 50s. It feels like it's being asked of us that we're supposed to be complicit in our own oppression and possibly even own eradication. Who does that? Who is complicit in their own demise? That is not a realistic ask for any living being.
The implication is that it was pretty ugly, right? So, if you're a trans person, you probably don't really want Charlie Kirk to be lionized either. And so, when you see someone who is ostensibly on your side, weeping for Charlie Kirk, it's like, hey, no, don't do that, sir. Well, but, people are complicated, people are multifaceted.
Yes, they
There's
are.
a lot of reasons why. Young Dean Withers might have been moved to tears in that moment, and I have my own theory that I will share with you in a moment.
I'm curious about his theory, too.
But let's revisit that in a second. I think we have something else we have to talk about a little bit first. Let's first talk about the liberal response. Not the leftist response, but the liberal response to the death of Charlie Kirk. The liberal response being predominantly, I don't agree with what Charlie Kirk had to say, but he's a human being, and political violence is never the answer, and political violence is bad, political violence is wrong, and don't do political violence because political violence is bad, etc., etc., etc. And this position strikes me as grotesquely naive. Do you feel the same way about it? Because I think that even a casual, bad reading of history is going to avail you of one simple truth. Politics is, was, and always will be violent. Now, usually, especially in America, the violence of politics is done on a state level. You take control of the state, you use the state's monopoly on violence to harm those who you hate.
After
harm those
this,
who you think
I'm
are the
going to
problem.
change the... I need to
And,
make
that's
a
the sort of
cover
violence
photo
that I
for
guess we
this.
all
Because
agree
this is
is a-
from the last time I
But if you
did
look throughout history,
stream with
political violence
Cassandra.
is not the exception, it's the rule. Country, of course, that we're all in right now, assuming you're an American, maybe you're not, but the country that I'm in, and that many of you are in, if you're an American, once again, was founded on violence. You know, this country was founded, the red, in the red, white, and blue.
I'm going to make this part of like a
symbolizes
random
blood.
rant type thing.
That's blood. Canonically, that is blood. Because blood was shed to create this country, and blood has been shed in every political shift this country has ever had, even the ones that we think of as peaceful. There is no such thing as peaceful politics. Right? Right. If you disagree with me, let me know. But
I'd
we
like
tend,
to
once again,
disagree with
to
him.
monopolize violence at the state level. The state has a monopoly on violence, and or at least legitimate violence. But it's still violence, nonetheless. And to kid yourself that it's not, I think you're being delusional, naive, silly, and stupid. So what does this have to do with our boy Dean Withers and his tears and the people who are upset by his tears? Well, I think, and there's a reason why I keep referencing Dean Withers' age here, because I think his age has a tremendous amount to do with it. I think
I
that Dean
could see
Withers
that.
was laboring under the misapprehension that he was safe. Maybe on an academic level, he realizes the things that I'm talking about. He realizes that there is an inherent violence to politics. Or maybe he doesn't. But one thing's for sure, I don't think that he understood it on a visceral level. Right? Right. And so when he saw poor Charlie Kirk get ventilated, when he saw the copious amounts of blood falling out of Charlie Kirk's neck as he collapsed to the ground,
That's very graphic.
part of him said, "Oh shit, I'm in danger." Shouldn't be surprising, but it is to a lot of people. I think that's why a lot of commentators are like, "Hey guys, can we just take that temperature down a notch, please? Can we take that down a few fucking notches? Because I'm kind of scared right now. I'm kind of worried. Because I too am a flesh sack, and I too could be destroyed by one simple little bullet." And I think Dean Withers was realizing that for the first time, right there on camera, and that's the nature of those tears. Saw himself in Charlie Kirk, and why shouldn't he? I saw a lot of people saying it's because they're both white. They both have white privilege. I dismiss that. It's because they're both loudmouth political commentators. And they realize that just because they fight with words doesn't mean everybody does. Some people fight a little bit more aggressively than that.
I suppose that could be, I don't know. That's pretty speculatory. I don't want to speculate beyond that. I am done with this particular topic. Let's go on
When
to
Musk
this.
started speaking out against Trump's big, beautiful...
Okay, so what is this? Business Insider. I'll try to leave the links to all this in the description after it's done going live. I'm going to try to fix it so that I have like a cover photo to do this. Like I said, I go through these articles every morning. I might as well just live stream them. So I need to get a cover photo. I need to get title ready, and I need to set up so that I can leave the links to these things. And maybe if I have a good take, I can piece it out and publish it as a video like all the other big content creators do. Why not? Okay, so Business Insider. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick says Elon Musk got DOGE backwards. Let's look at their
Musk
stupid
just
little
break up.
video.
It all started when Musk started speaking out against Trump's big, beautiful bill, aka the Republican spending bill. He started out by speaking out against how it was wasteful and reversed the efforts he was making with the Department of Government Efficiency, which he just officially left about a week ago. Things started to escalate on Wednesday when Musk stopped holding back about how he really felt about the bill.
Musk posted on X, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination."
Things took a turn after that.
Musk continued to go off about the bill increasing the national deficit. Trump...
We cannot let people forget that this goes into effect mid-2026 and will have massive repercussions. And the reason why we can't let people forget that is because that's when the midterms are. And if we get a bunch of Democrat seats flip a bunch of seats towards the Democrats. You're not blaming this on the Democrats. That big, beautiful bill has not gone into full sway yet. And it does a lot of very harmful things to the people. A lot of harmful things to the people. The socialism that the very little socialism we have in the United States, like out of all of the first world democracies in the world, the United States has the least amount of socialism, even compared to like other like second world, third world. We are like second to last on it. So the little bit of socialism that we have, I think it's something that people who think we should get rid of it take for granted. I don't think they realize what it does for them until it's gone. So I mean, I've asked this question: how bad do things have to get before they're so bad that they're bad enough to be considered bad? And unfortunately, I think the answer is as bad as they can possibly fucking get. I think things have to get so bad that you literally just can't ignore it. And sadly, by that time, it'll be so bad. There really won't be a way out of it that doesn't come at a tremendous cost. Oh, screw you, buffering. Fine, I don't want to watch your video anyway. I'll just do this.
Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick says Elon Musk got DOGE backward. Howard Lutnick criticized Elon Musk's approach to government efficiency cuts. Carlos Faria/Reuters. 1. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick is now criticizing Elon Musk's rapid federal worker cuts. 2. Lutnick told Axios that Musk got the DOGE cuts backward. 3. Lutnick recruited Musk to be in charge of DOGE and tasked him with cutting $1 trillion. Elon Musk's former ally in the White House is putting distance between them. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, who worked closely with Musk during the Tesla CEO's time as the face of the Department of Government Efficiency, expressed disapproval toward how Musk handled firings at DOGE. In an interview with the Axios show that aired on Friday, Lutnick told show host Mike Allen that Musk approached DOGE in the same way he approached Twitter, now X, where he rapidly cut 80% of staff, and that Musk thought that example worked for government. "I thought Elon got caught up in other people's objectives," Lutnick said. "Right, I mean, the people work at the government fine. The government could be 10% smaller, I'm sure it could be 15% smaller, and let the cabinet secretaries go in, study their place, and make the proper cuts." Lutnick said that the government spending could have been slashed and pointed to a Biden-era program that gave $7.4 billion to a private nonprofit to research.
You're going to end up with basically like no accountability. The thing is like when we had this kind of limited government, like back in the 17 to 1800s, we didn't have the giant infrastructure and multi-conglomerate corporations that as they exist today. You had some version of it, with like the East India Trading Company or something like that, but we like right now ISP companies have consolidated so much. Pretty much every single American is being ripped off in what they pay for internet service provider because there's no oversight. They're breaking the law. They're literally doing things that the United States has federally said should be illegal because they're creating localized monopolies. And it's not just happening with ISP companies. Like you have RealPage that's price fixing to where apartment complexes are not competing with each other. They're working together. Sort of a form of monopoly, not necessarily subsidies, but kind of subsidies, but not really. You only have 3 major beverage companies. I mean, you've got these giant behemoth companies that are holding on to a resource, and it's getting to where fewer and fewer companies hold those resources, which means like eventually if it just gets consolidated into one, you're talking about one company holding on to a resource, and that means that they can charge whatever the fuck they want. And there's nothing you can do about it. There is no free market in that situation. There is no, well, I'll go somewhere else then, because we're almost already at the point where there's only one company that provides it anyway. And then there's no accountability, there's no oversight because of all this gutting. Who's going to hold them responsible? Like, especially if it's a need, like water. The water that comes out of your faucet. and you know, it gets privatized, company runs it. Like, this is a story in Flint, Michigan. Like, what competitor are they supposed to go to? Nestle, and just like bathe in bottled water? Like, I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Like, where's the oversight? Where's the accountability? There isn't any.
Semiconductors. He said this was an example of what he would call waste, fraud, and abuse. You know how many people would equal $7.4 billion? Come on, the focus should have been on cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse and the people you could do over time, said Lutnick. I thought he got that backward. Musk used to be a close White House aide before his public fallout with the president. Since then, Lutnick's sentiments toward Musk seem to have shifted. Earlier this year, Lutnick said on Fox News' Jesse Watters Primetime that he was the one who set up Musk with the job after flying to Texas to meet the Tesla CEO in October 2024. There, they reached an agreement that Musk would cut $1 trillion of waste, fraud, and abuse, Lutnick said. So he's going to cut $1 trillion, and then we get rid of all these tax scams that hammer against America, and we are going to raise $1 trillion of revenue, Lutnick told Watters on February 19th. And our objective under Donald Trump is to balance...
And the thing that sucks is, like, this has nothing to do with waste, fraud, and abuse. This has everything to do with being able to give the top 1% $6 trillion in tax cuts. And the reason why they had to cut the $1 trillion is because if they couldn't find the finances to finance the level of tax cuts they were giving to the top 1%, it would bankrupt America. Okay, like, it has nothing to do with waste, fraud, and abuse. Nothing to do with it. The government runs as efficiently as it can. I don't like it when they use terms like calling tax scams that hammer against America. They're not scams that hammer against Americans. They're not. And if you want to ensure that our taxes go to more meaningful things, like, I don't have a problem with my taxes going towards someone who's become disabled that needs an income to support having a roof over their head, being able to buy food, being able to buy I don't even mind if it goes to support them engaging in some form of consumerism for some form of joy. I don't mind that. I want it to go to help people in our communities, in our society, to take care of each other. That's what I want our tax dollars to do. That's why I don't want my tax dollars going to something like the DEA, which there's two sides. There's the side of the DEA that helps regulate to make sure that things like medications, particularly controlled narcotic medications, are safe for consumption. And that's fine. That's okay. Then there's the other side of the DEA that just has this war on drugs and basically criminalizes people that have done no crime, in my opinion. In my opinion, that's not a crime.
This budget, and I'm telling you, you watch, we are going to do it. In March, NBC host Kristen Welker asked Lutnick on air, who is in charge of your agency, you or Elon Musk? Lutnick responded that he had the greatest businessman and greatest technologist in the world as his partner.
Yeah, and see, Elon Musk hasn't invented anything. He did not come up with PayPal or invent it. Other people came up with it, invented it, and he just slapped his name on it. Same with his rockets, his cars, and then there's all the inventions that were supposed to be. A lot have been subsidized by taxpayers, like the Hyperloop. That never came to be. That was all subsidized by taxpayers. The driverless fleet of the self-driving fleet of cargo trucks, which if you're a truck driver, that should scare the shit out of you because your job is in jeopardy. You know, it's going to be automated. But those haven't come to fruition. There are automobile companies that do have self-driving technology that are far more superior than anything that Musk's company has come out with. Musk has dropped the ball on all of that. There was even a car that was supposed to come out that people have prepaid for, and he hasn't refunded because he can't. Again, that car that was promised back in 2017, and he hasn't come out. The car would have to be a giant battery in order for the promises that he made about it to work, because he doesn't understand. He actually doesn't understand anything about physics, and so because he knows nothing about those things. There's also the underground road system. Again, never come fruition. Nope. But subsidized by taxpayers. This man is basically a trillionaire because of taxpayers. That's waste, fraud, and abuse right there. Making this man a centibillionaire. And we've received nothing in return for it. Nothing. Next one. Missouri lawmakers pass GOP redistricting plan backed by Trump.
On this, let's bring in CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, always love talking to you about these kind of...
Since I live in Kansas City, I can tell you a little bit about this. What is interesting about how they redistricted? There's an elected official that's part of the Kansas City area, so the KC metro area on the Missouri side. His district has now been redrawn all the way out to the border of Nebraska. And the thing is that may not benefit the people, the people in the rural area, because the population density in that part of Missouri outside of the Kansas City area is teeny tiny compared to the portion of Kansas City that he sits in. So it's very possible that the population density from the Kansas City portion of the district that he's in could just overpower the voters in the rural area, and this just end up backfiring in their face.
The figures. First, can you walk us through what has changed in these states?
Yeah, and I want to start with this, Nancy, because it's kind of the big picture. In our latest poll, we asked people, what do you think ought to be done about congressional districts? And the bulk of them said, leave things until after the 2030 census. And that leads to a larger point about what's happening here. Typically, we see redistricting, if folks recall, this happens in earnest right after a census year. So yes, 2030, it happened a lot, of course, in all states after 2020. A mid-cycle, mid-census cycle redistricting is uncommon, but states can do it, and that's what you're seeing playing out here. Now, the other...
Why are they doing it?
Part of this, you mentioned this at the top, the proportion of a state's congressional delegation that a party controls or wins relative to, let's just do this as a comparison, relative to its presidential vote, just as a rough proxy for partisanship. So as you noted, 3/4 of Missouri's congressional district is held by Republicans. Donald Trump got 58% of the vote there. And we can do similar things in places like Florida or Texas, which I'll show you more about in a minute, where Republicans hold 2/3 of the congressional districts. Trump got 56% of the vote. And just so this isn't just confined, of course, to Republican-leaning states, here's California, 58% presidential vote, 83% of the congressional districts. How does this come about? Well, partly it's a function of where voters live within the state. Partly it's a function of who gets to draw the maps. And in the case of Texas, you've got the state legislature now looking at newly proposed districts. And what you're going to look at when you first see this map, it's a little hard to tell, partly because these blue spots, these Democratic districts on, let's use the current map here, these are concentrations of Democrats who tend to live more in cities, Republicans in more suburbs and rural areas. But let me just show you a couple of examples here for what's happened, because if I take this and we zoom in on a couple of them, here's the area around San Antonio, areas around Houston. in the proposed map, if you see the difference, if you look closely, what you'll get is a lot of the areas around San Antonio, the suburbs, have been included now in the redrawn districts, which ostensibly would help Republicans, but it really is going to depend on a couple of key factors, which I'm just going to go right in and say has a lot to do with the Hispanic vote. Donald Trump won an increasing number of the Hispanic vote in Texas in 24. He got 55% of it, and it seems like Republicans are really banking on that because there's a lot of Hispanic areas, especially in and around the Rio Grande Valley down here, where some of these new districts are. If Hispanics continue to trend Republican, that could pay off, but it's also a bit of a gamble if they in fact do.
Oh no! Hey, Republicans, Hispanics love you guys. It'll absolutely happen that way. Hispanics
Missouri
love
lawmakers
you.
passed GOP redistricting plan backed by Trump. Washington, the Missouri state legislature on Friday passed a plan to redraw the state's congressional maps and potentially add another Republican-leaning House seat, the latest state to join a nationwide redistricting push backed by President Trump. The state Senate passed the redistricting plan Friday, sending it to the desk of Republican Governor Mike Kehoe, who says he will sign it into law. The state House passed the plan on Tuesday. Kehoe called a special session to take up redistricting last month. The new map would split up the Kansas City area, making longtime Democratic Representative Emanuel Cleaver's district more conservative. Missouri would then be left with 7 GOP-leaning House districts and 1 Democratic-leaning seat, a shift from the state's current House delegation, which has 6 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Advertisement. The redistricting push follows similar mid-decade redistricting.
As somebody who lives in Kansas City, this is not going to be helpful. You're going to end up having like 5 people in rural Missouri being represented properly, and then let's say like these are not actual numbers. I'm just saying, like, you know, for show you what's wrong with this is that you'll have like 5 people represented properly, and then like 150,000 people improperly represented, just because they like this is so obvious that they just want to basically this is just trying to fix the election. I mean, it's just obvious.
By California and Texas. The nationwide gambit to reshape congressional maps comes as Republicans fight to hold onto a razor-thin majority in the House in next year's midterm elections. At Mr. Trump's urging, Texas officials passed a plan to create 5 new GOP-leaning districts last month. California lawmakers quickly responded by passing a map that would move 5 Republican-held seats toward Democrats, though the California plan still needs to be approved by voters in a special election this fall. Mr. Trump lauded Missouri lawmakers for advancing the new map, which he said in a Truth Social post will, hopefully, give us an additional seat in Congress and will help send an additional mega Republican to Congress. A new, much fairer, and much improved, congressional map has now overwhelmingly passed both chambers of the Missouri legislature,
fairer.
The president wrote. Advertisement. House Minority Leader
It's
Hakeem
more
Jeffries,
biased.
a New York Democrat, called the new maps rigged in a statement Friday. Bowing to the demands of Donald Trump, corrupt Missouri Republicans advanced their mid-decade gerrymandering scheme today to try and rig the midterm elections in order to salvage the weak GOP House majority, he said. Before the new maps passed, University of Missouri professor Pavel Squire told CBS News that Republicans have weighed splitting up Cleaver's district for years, but none of this comes without any cost. He noted that the redrawn maps are based on years-old data that may have changed, and legal challenges could follow. There's a lot of risk for the Republicans, and the only thing at the moment that they stand to gain is maybe one more House seat, Squire said. Advertisement. Within hours of the Senate passing the redistricting plan, opponents filed a legal challenge in state court calling the new map unconstitutional in a host of ways, and the process slapdash and rushed. The lawsuit filed by the ACLU of Missouri and the Campaign Legal Center argued the Missouri Constitution only allows 1 redistricting per decade after new census figures are released, and requires House districts to be as compact as possible. The lawsuit argued the intent of the new maps is to transform what has long been a seat anchored in the Democratic-leaning Kansas City metropolitan area into a district dominated by rural, Republican-leaning counties, an outcome accomplished by splitting Kansas City's black and white residents along stark racial lines. Officials say they have good video of suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination special report. Officials say Charlie Kirk shooting suspect...
Okay, we're done with that. We're going on to the next one. Okay, USA Today. No idea what you have on leash. Charlie Kirk's wife delivers first public address. I am really curious what her public address is.
No idea what you have unleashed. Charlie Kirk's wife delivers first public address. Erica Kirk vowed in a September 12th speech to continue her husband's movement and said that the cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. It was Erica Kirk's first public appearance since her husband was killed while speaking with students at Utah Valley University days earlier. The evildoers for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done, she said in a live stream on the YouTube page of Turning Point USA, the conservative movement her husband started out of high school in Illinois that has since swept college campuses around the nation. Advertisement. Kirk's address came in the aftermath of authorities announcing that they had captured a suspected shooter in Kirk's killing. Utah Governor Spencer Cox told reporters later in the morning that Tyler Robinson, 22, was taken into custody after a family member contacted a family friend, who then informed authorities that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he committed the incident. The mother of two spoke from her husband's studio where he delivered the Charlie Kirk show. The desk was outfitted with white hats with a gold number 47, a reference to President Donald Trump. The conservative talk show host was a strong proponent of the 47th president. Kirk promised that her husband will not have died in vain and said that instead his message would only become stronger. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's love, she said. They should all know this. If you thought my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Well, that didn't age well within a matter of 5 minutes. Literally the person who did it, the person who did it too, this 22, like, the stuff that they wrote on the bullets is a bunch of Gen Z, Gen Alpha language that I'm too old to understand, but from my understanding, it's basically just a bunch of homophobic slurs from their generation's meme culture. Like, in my generation, my age bracket's language, it would basically be like spray painting, I can't say it on YouTube, you know, the bundle of sticks F word on somebody's car was about basically what this kid did, only in Gen Alpha, Gen Z language. Slang. Gen Alpha, Gen Z slang, or colloquialisms.
What you have unleashed across this country and this world. Advertisement. She added, you have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. She said her husband's campus tour will continue.
I do understand why she's
come on his
talking
radio
like this,
and
though.
podcast show
I mean,
will go on.
people...
How long have they been married? Born Erica France, Kirk married her husband in May 2021, according to the Arizona Republic, part of the USA Today network, in a social media post by Erica. She worked as a real estate agent with the Corcoran Group in New York City, according to her LinkedIn profile.
I mean, it's pretty common that when someone you like someone you love dies, like the people who love and care about the deceased, they will focus all on the positives. That's psychologically that's just pretty normal. It's pretty common.
And is also the founder of Everyday Heroes Like You, a nonprofit organization dedicated to community empowerment. Kirk was also a former beauty queen, having been crowned Miss Arizona USA in 2012. How old are their children? The couple shared 2 children, a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son, according to posts on social media. Advertisement. The talk show host had not revealed his children's names and has largely kept their faces off of social media. We have a girl and a boy, and it's no...
Honestly, I think that's really good that he's kept their names and faces off of social media. Like, I think that could really fuck up a kid's life, to be honest. Like, it's possible they could go on and have a completely different life than their parents, and no one would know. Okay, so... Okay, this is going on to more the economic issues that I'm personally... Like right now, on parcels, parcel delivery companies like UPS, FedEx, actually that's something that fucked me when I moved with Spectrum. They tried to ship a new modem through FedEx, and they ended up shipping it back. A lot of parcel companies, DHL... anything under $800, they're basically not shipping it. You won't get your stuff from overseas. They're not doing it because of the taxes and other gratuities that are involved with all the policies that are surrounding with Trump. So like trying to get packages from overseas delivered through like UPS, even USPS, DHL, FedEx, so on and so forth. They're not doing it. They don't even do it, and they don't even know what the cost will be, because it could be one thing one day and another thing another day. And this is like a big thing of like people like self-made. I thought that was like a very pro-capitalist thing, being self-made business person. Well, Etsy has offered that for, they send you this giant box filled with like shit to sell, and then you go on your social media and you go, oh, look how nice it is, come and buy it from me. Like this has been a self-made, I wouldn't say necessarily entrepreneur, but it really kind of changes the dynamic of the marketplace for like thrift stores and sort of shopping and stuff like that. You what it would look like if you put it online. I do not like the amount of waste that it produces. I don't like that, but it is. It's going to impact these people, and I want to hear this article.
Why your favorite ETSE treasures could soon cost more or go away entirely. Hunched over her kitchen counter, in the depths of grief, Kelly Abernethy had an idea. It was March 2020, and she and her husband had been trying for a second child, but suffered a miscarriage that had unmoored them. I just need something to hold on to this moment, she thought then. Her eyes lingered on the bouquet of flowers on the counter, a gift from her husband, and the clusters of tiny white blooms poking out among the stems. Baby's breath, a symbol of everlasting love. She thought perhaps she could keep them, encase them in a necklace to wear in memory. Abernethy, who had never made jewelry before, got to work ordering the parts. Advertisement. After much trial and error, the final product was a delicate rose gold chain with a small round pendant holding the baby's breath bloom. It occurred to her that other parents may also be looking for something to commemorate the babies they lost, so she listed the photo with her original on ETSE, the marketplace for mom and pop, but mostly mom, shops that sell largely handmade items. Some 80% of sellers there are women. Before long, Abernethy had a jewelry business called Rest of the Nest. 5 years later, it's her full-time job. The necklace that started it all became her bestseller. But now, she's unsure if she'll be able to continue making it. President Donald Trump's aggressive trade policies, which have significantly raised tariffs on most countries, have hit small businesses like hers that source some of their products internationally. The rose gold Abernethy uses.
And see, that's I thought this was like the pro-capitalist like the position is especially towards small mom and pop brick and mortar, and actually a lot of these policies impact the big multi-conglomerates the least, and like small mom and pop brick and mortar stores are shutting down across the country. They're closing their doors. There's mass layoffs, and the big corporate major conglomerates are closing franchise, or they're closing stores down across the United States. That, man, I think the actual like job market, we are at a negative 15%. I could be wrong on that number, but I think we're at we're negative 15% on job. We've lost like negative 15%. That's terrible. This is not good. That's and they made being homeless illegal at a time when it's very easy to become homeless because stores are closing, like small mom and pop brick and mortar just shutting down. Multi-conglomerates closing stores, mass layoffs, mass inflation on everything. Everything is costing more, and rent is about to like rent for apartment complexes and trailer homes and housing is about to go up again. And the housing market, the people who have looked forward to appreciating value and buying a home, that's probably about to drop. But still, nobody's got the ability to buy the homes even if you drop it. And lose the value that you put into the home. So you're not building equity. This is a disaster. And then, like, did you know that most people, like a lot of people in their early 20s, not just living at home with mom and dad, a lot of them are living in RVs and cars because the cost of living is like 70. It has become the norm that just to keep a roof over your head is about 70% of your income. 70%. 70%. And that's what we are sending our kids into these days. Like, when I was young and got into the workforce, I saw an issue with the system where it was like, something needs to change. The system, something is wrong. Like, the amount of power and money that got consolidated to the top, it was creating this imbalance of flux where it's like, actually, Xennials, millennials, the first generation to receive a lower standard of living than any generation before them. And now it's getting worse, and this is being pushed off on. You wonder why the young people aren't having children. They're living in cars and RVs, which the Trump administration, with this homelessness is illegal thing, they consider living in an RV. I don't consider living in an RV homeless. I don't consider that homeless. The Trump administration does. These people have turned to living in an RV as an alternative way of living in the face of, like, if you make $55,000 a year, you cannot get a 1-bedroom apartment around here. You can't. You will be $100 shy of meeting the 3 times rent requirement with $55,000 a year. So these kids that are being pushed out of their house of like, oh, you just need to have 3 different jobs, and honestly, like, with the minimum wage being $7.25 federally, and the state that I'm in, it doesn't really make a difference, because if any company said we're going to pay you $7.25, no one would take that job, because there is no possible way you could survive off of that. No fucking way you could survive off of $7.25. Not even if you didn't sleep and did the job the entire week. You would not be able to survive off of that. No company is hiring anybody at $7. You could raise the minimum wage to $11 an hour, and pretty much everybody anyone who's employing people right now would not have to change a thing, because nobody is hiring people at $7.25, because they can't. No one will take the job. You can't live off of it. There's no way you can live off of it. No freaking way. So, like, these people, that they have like 3 jobs. They have degrees. They have good jobs. They're making $55,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, and they live in an RV. Because the cost of an apartment, the cost of trailers is like $3,000 to rent the lot. That doesn't count the cost of the trailer itself. Just to rent the lot has gone up to like $3,000 a month. Because of these private equity firms coming in and buying them all up and creating a monopoly. That they're under different subsidy names, but it's all owned by one company. So there's no competition. I'll just go to the next trailer park that charges less. Nope. And they're all owned by the same company, so you can't escape this. It doesn't matter if you go to that trailer park community, this trailer park community, that one over there. They're all owned by the same fucking company, and they're all charging the same fucking amount. And not only are they charging more, they're taking amenities away. Like, if it had a pool, doesn't anymore. Had nice mailboxes. Oh, we're not taking care of the mailboxes anymore, so they're charging more money, taking amenities away, and that $3,000 is for the lot rent. That does not count the cost for the trailer home itself. And you have like apartment complexes. In this area, it's about a 51% increase. When the renters' rights bill was on the floor back in October 2 years ago, the Renters' Rights Act was on the floor, presented by Biden and Kamala. I believe it was in the was it in the House or the Senate? I don't remember if it was the House or the Senate. But the Republicans, they shot it down. They tore it into pieces. They said no. It was price control. It was antithetical to free market capitalism. It was socialist, blah, blah, the usual shtick. And the thing is, it wasn't price control. Basically, all it was saying was, they weren't saying you couldn't increase the price. They were just saying you couldn't increase it past a certain limit because it would break society. And that got torn up and thrown in the trash by the Republicans in neither the House or the Senate. It got killed. The bill got killed. In the same week the Renters' Rights Act bill was destroyed, 5 days later, rent rates in the entire United States went up by 46%. So, depending on where you live, it might have only gone up 30%. Like if you live in New York or California where rent rates were already really high, it might have only been like maybe 20-30%. But that's a huge jump if you live there because the rates were already ridiculously high. Here in the Kansas City metropolitan area, rent rates have gone up by about 51%. In 1 week, 2 years ago, 5 days, literally 5 days after that, the Renters' Rights Act was destroyed. 5 days after that, a one-bedroom apartment here went from $600 a month all the way up to $1,200. A little over $1,200. 51% increase. 51% increase. So when they were charging the $600 a month, they were making, who knows, 15-20%, maybe 30% profit. Enough to maintain the property well and keep it a pretty decent property. Pretty, like, basically, like a lower middle class to upper lower class kind of place. Not pretty, basically like middle class, but on the lower end of middle class, or maybe the upper end of lower class. So, decent place, really good, modest place. So, if they were making 30%, let's say they were making 30% profit. Add 51% on top, it's like 81% profit. And so, they are making more profit off of only 20% tenancy, 20% occupancy of the units. They are making more money off of that than back when they would have full occupancy at the $600 a month. That's how much disgustingly overpriced the rent rates have gone up. And their price fixing, they're using a company called RealPage to do that. RealPage contracts with all the apartment complex. So, for example, down the street, there's an apartment complex that it was income based. And now it's contracted with RealPage as well. Okay, this complex is only a block away. It's literally 1 block away from the place that used to be the rent was income based. Like basically, if you made over, I think if you made over $27,000 a year, you couldn't even live there. You made too much money. So this complex, it's got washer and dryer hookups in it, which is hard to find in an apartment complex. You got the patio. The one bedrooms are freaking huge. I live in, we had to downgrade because they're remodeling and renovating all the units, which is part of RealPage's plan as well. That's why all the complexes are starting to have these wood floors and silver, appliances. But this is the smallest one-bedroom unit, and it's almost 800 square feet. Okay, at the one that used to be income-based, same thing. It's owned by a completely different company, too. But it's contracted through RealPage. They're doing the wooden floor. These are floating wood panels, by the way. They're doing that over there, too. They've repainted the building. Silver appliances. Their one bedrooms over there, their biggest one bedroom is almost 700 square feet. No washer and dryer hookups. Tiny itty bitty little patios, not like the one that we have here. And the cost for their 1 bedroom is the same as here. And that's because of RealPage. And there's a similar thing happening with rental housing. Just like with the trailer housing. And I don't know what's going on the actual like real estate market, but supposedly we're entering into a buyer's market, but nobody has the means to do it. When you're living in a trailer community or an apartment complex and they're sucking out 70% of your income, you can't even put money aside to put a down payment, not even a $30,000 down payment, because rent is taking up 70% of your income.
In her signature necklace, for example, she can only find in China. She's facing a 30% tariff on those imports, a fee that is likely too high for her business to absorb. In late August, the Trump administration also ended a century-old rule that allowed American sellers to avoid tariffs on small international shipments. Known as the de minimis exemption, the rule allowed importers to avoid tariffs on orders valued at less than $800. Advertisement. Trump has sold his approach to trade as a means to boost domestic production and create jobs, but all those new costs have put Abernethy in a bind. If she raises prices, she risks pricing herself out of the market. If she cuts the necklace entirely, it would mean ending sales of her bestseller, a decision that carries not only financial heft but also emotional significance. I feel frozen in fear a little bit, Abernethy said. I've never done this to be rich. I just want to make a decent living doing something I feel deeply passionate about. That's my American dream. It just feels like it's slipping away. Kelly Abernethy works on a piece of jewelry for her ETSE shop. On marketplaces like ETSE, where women-owned small businesses have flourished, sellers like Abernethy are now grappling with tariffs as high as 50% on goods from countries such as India, a major source for jewelry and apparel. Courtesy of Kelly Abernethy. Women's small business.
And the fact of the matter is we just don't have all the resources here in the United States that we're missing out on because of all these tariffs. The idea that we could just do everything at home. Guess what? You cannot grow cocoa beans here in America anywhere. You cannot grow sugar cane here in America anywhere. And also, if we do that, before we opened up trade with Mexico and South American countries, guess what? Avocados were only seasonal because you can only grow them in California and Florida at certain times of the year. So avocados will go back to being seasonal. You're going to see a massive shortage in garlic. You're going to see a massive shortage in eggs. We have access to lithium mining, but there's other rare minerals and such like that we do not have here in the United States. It doesn't exist. The only way you could get it is by going to another country. Like the idea that you could just literally everything that we have that we could just get it right here in America is devoid of reality. It tells me you don't understand geology. You don't understand how things work. You don't know where things come from. Because no, you cannot grow sugarcane here. You can't. I thought that was one of the things that like the right wing, like Sargon of Akkad was criticizing AOC for, because she wanted, like, all she was talking about was having like communal gardening for like I think it would be cool if we planted like apple trees and pear trees and peach trees, which can grow in this area quite fine naturally. And that could be a food source for the community available for free for anyone. You just go out and pick some apples, pears, or peaches and eat them. And I think Sargon's hiccup with that is that, but you can't grow, and he brought up like a vegetable that can't grow in the climate that New York exists in. And it's like, well, you wouldn't grow that. Like these community like vegetable gardens and stuff, they're not end all be all answer to solving hunger. They're just a thing you can do to alleviate it. It's only part of a bigger picture.
Owners already face significant hardships in standing up and sustaining their businesses. Women own about 40% of U.S. businesses overall, and most of them are very small. About 90% have no employees, according to data from the Small Business Administration. Women have also historically struggled with access to capital and loans. They are already much more likely than men to finance their business primarily with debt or help from family and friends. Some 70% of men use private capital investment to finance their business, compared with just 30% of women, according to a survey by Gusto, a software company that provides payroll and HR management for businesses. Advertisement. On marketplaces like ETSE, where women-owned small businesses have been able to flourish, sellers are now managing tariffs as high as 50% on goods from countries like India, a major source market for jewelry and apparel manufacturers. Stress and anxiety are running high. Everyone is pretty nervous, Abernethy said. I get this feeling that we are all collectively holding our breath waiting for the next shoe to drop. It feels very tough to have a small business in this environment. Sellers are also managing an ever-changing trade landscape. Trump was initially going to raise tariffs in April, then ping-ponged for months until implementing the bulk of the new tariffs in August. Then, a federal appeals court ruled August 29 that Trump's most punishing tariffs, including those imposed on China, Canada, and Mexico, were illegal. The court's decision won't be implemented until mid-October, however, and the Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to hear the case, so it's unclear where it all will end. All of it means sellers are unsure what affects them or will affect them, which makes it next to impossible to plan, said Carly Zorker, an ETSE seller who also does coaching and consulting for small business owners. Advertisement. Many of her clients are moms who opened small businesses on ETSE because it afforded them the flexibility they were missing in the American labor market. All of that now hangs in the balance, Zorker said. It's incredibly overwhelming for small businesses and for women who are doing a lot of other things. We're moms who never get to turn off, she said from Wichita, Kansas, where she was taking a call from a reporter and shuttling her 16-month-old around the zoo. Simply sourcing items in the United States may not be possible for everyone, she said. Most materials are more expensive to buy in the United States, and most women-owned small businesses don't have the capital to take on the increased cost. If they are able to source items, it's likely those products will be slightly different than their international counterparts. That means time spent taking new product photos, updating marketing and listings, communicating with clients about the change, and that's assuming the product is good quality. Advertisement. Just because it's made in America it doesn't mean it meets your quality standards, Zorker noted. The list of what-ifs is endless, she said. The few businesses that have been able to plan somewhat by buying items in bulk this summer ahead of the tariff increases will have to manage the physical and mental load of that decision, Zorker added. From an inventory standpoint, a lot of them work from their homes and kitchens. Where are they going to put their products, she said. They're sitting on it. Having physical products sitting in your space can get really stressful. They have to sell it because they see it every day. The tariff increases are already also impacting American buyers, too, who are being shut out from purchasing items from small businesses overseas. Advertisement. In the United Kingdom, where a 10% tariff rate is now in effect, sellers who rely on American customers are overwhelmed trying to manage the changes, said Lauren Keating, a Manchester-based ETSE seller and coach who works with other ETSE businesses. The tariffs came in so fast that as sellers we weren't sure who pays them, how to collect them, how much they'd be, or how to build it into prices, Keating said. Some sellers she works with rely on U.S. customers for half of their orders. They are contending not only with higher prices, but with a logistical and customer service headache. There are worries of delays at customs and longer shipping times, unexpected bills for U.S. customers, and possibly negative reviews from frustrated customers that could impact the reputation of their shops. For lots of small businesses, Keating said, the risk feels too high, so they're choosing to stop selling to the U.S. altogether. Advertisement. Bigger companies may be better positioned to manage all of that, but ETSE isn't made up of people shipping generic products from big warehouses.
So long,
she said.
small
It's
mom
made up
and
predominantly
pops.
of women who
So
at some
long,
point wanted to follow their
startup.
creative
So
passion,
so
build
long
something
being
special from their dining room
self-made.
table or spare
Bye
room,
bye.
and end up totally disheartened when they
Bye-bye.
realize they're spending 80% of their
Good
time
job,
figuring out how
Trump.
to
Good
navigate
job,
headaches
MAGA.
like this. All of it could have downstream effects on the market of handmade goods that women have come to dominate, said Nicole Arnett Sanders, an expert in marketing and consumer behavior who is a former ETSE seller and now also coaches sellers. Consumers love the handmade, but they don't want to pay those.
I feel like some of them are going to be like, well, women shouldn't be in business anyway. This is very damaging to people.
Prices when they go up, she said. These policy changes, they are forcing the sellers to choose between absorbing unsustainable costs or losing customers to cheaper, mass-produced alternatives. It's really undermining a whole sector of women-owned businesses and creatives. For Abernethy, small business ownership was a pathway to a life that gave her the flexibility to pursue my passion and be a present mom to our kids. After her miscarriage in early 2020, she had a second miscarriage before becoming pregnant with a daughter. Her kids are now 4 and 6. Advertisement. Tariffs may have been put in place to bolster American companies, she said, but at the core of it, it feels like small business owners are getting lost in the shuffle. The post why your favorite ETSE treasures could soon cost more or go.
Okay. Matthew Dowd speaks out after MSNBC fired him for, well, you know, we went over that in some other article. I'm not gonna go over it again. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. So, you know, thanks for joining me, and I'll try to get this set up so that it works a little bit better. Try to get the keys situated so that it'd be easier to just hit a button to switch to a different thing. And I need to get yeah. cover photo for it. I'll get it all situated. I'll get it all fixed up. And eventually too, like this Charlie Kirk thing will start to go, and we'll start getting more articles about the economy, the job market, and other things related to it, because it's really bad. It's really bad, you guys. It's bad. It's bad. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you watched, have a good day. Like, share, subscribe, and comment and all that.